Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Hashim Kumar. President Trump's high-profile meeting with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelenskyy and European leaders has set the stage for possible direct talks between Zelenskyy and Vladimir Putin in Alaska. Trump says a ceasefire isn't needed to reach peace, while security guarantees for Ukraine are being discussed with Europe. But how does Moscow view this moment, and what are Russia's intentions as diplomacy accelerates? Well, to explore the Russian perspective, I'm joined by Dr. Jenny Mathers, Senior Lecturer at the Department of International Politics at Aberystwyth University. Doctor, welcome to TVP World, and thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. So let's take the perspective from Vladimir Putin's boots, if you like. How does he see the outcome of his meeting with Trump in Alaska and Trump's meeting with the European leaders? What do you think?
I think Putin would be very pleased with the outcome of his Alaska meeting, certainly. I mean, it gave him the opportunity to have this face-to-face meeting with Trump. He was treated with great respect and, greeted with great fanfare. And the fact that, Trump went into the meeting saying one thing, insisting that there had to be a ceasefire, insisting that there would be consequences for Russia if Russia did not agree a ceasefire. But he came out of the meeting with a very different view, one which really echoed all of Putin's talking points about the need to go straight to a peace deal, about the importance of territorial concessions by Ukraine and so on. So I think Putin would have been extremely happy with the Alaska meeting, and the Kremlin's sort of guidance to Russian news media about the coverage indicated that they wanted it presented as, Russia re-entering the world stage, demonstrating that Russia is a great power. The United States is recognizing that, and now, European security is going to be reshaped to take Russia's considerations into it. So I think all of that would have been very important. Now, the meeting in Washington with the European leaders and Zelenskyy, I think still the Russians would have been pretty happy in the sense that it clearly has rattled the Europeans and Zelenskyy, this meeting in Alaska. There was the felt need to go to Washington en masse and try and repair the damage that had been done by Putin, and to try and pull Trump back from this course of sort of accepting all of Putin's statements. So I think on balance, the Russians would be pretty happy, wouldn't see anything to be terribly alarmed by, nothing that they can't kind of stop from happening if they don't want to carry on in that direction. Okay,
so that's interesting. So Putin seems to be sitting pretty at the moment, a position of strength after both these meetings. But on the other hand, he seems to be agreeing to some kind of peace agreement, including security guarantees for Ukraine. How do you think he's going to play that?
Well, I think the discussions about security guarantees for Ukraine have been remarkably vague. Different leaders in Europe and also Zelenskyy have articulated what they want, but it isn't clear exactly what is going to happen. And certainly Russia has indicated that it does not think it's acceptable for NATO member states to have military forces in Ukraine itself as part of any sort of a security guarantee. So that's a key element that the Ukrainians are pushing for and that the Europeans are talking about, but it's one that Russia clearly doesn't find acceptable. So that's a big question. Another big question is the status of Ukraine's armed forces, because Zelenskyy has indicated very clearly that a strong Ukrainian military is the key, most important element of any security guarantees for Ukraine. And of course, limiting Ukraine's military capability is a key target, a key goal for Russia and for Putin. So that's not entirely clear. Also, the United States' role in any security guarantees is also remarkably vague. So Trump has said that the U.S. would play a coordinating role, would help organize things, but it isn't at all, specific exactly what the Americans would be doing, and especially whether or not there would be any American military involvement. So I think still, Putin would see all of this vagueness as working in his favor, as an opportunity to manipulate the discussion and sort of shape the narrative and move things away from a dimension that Russia regards as unacceptable.
So it sounds from what you say, Dr. Mathers, that actually we are where we started before both of these summits happened. For all practical purposes, Putin's position doesn't really seem to have changed. He's feeling strong at the moment. He says he sees no reason to stop doing what he's doing. So, what is next for him in his mind?
Well, I think there's a couple of things to consider. One is that, the war at its current pace is actually quite beneficial for Putin in many ways. Russian society has accepted, for the most part, the war. It doesn't affect a lot of people in direct terms. So keeping it going at this sort of relatively low level in terms of how it operates with Russian society is probably absolutely fine for Putin. Also, if any kind of a deal is reached on Russia's terms involving territorial concessions by Ukraine, for example, well, that might be enough for Putin to accept it as a point for a temporary pause and then see what goes forward. So I think, at the moment, both of those options are quite attractive for Putin, and he's able to sort of sit back, see which one emerges as the most likely, head off dimensions that are going to be detrimental to Russia's interests, and then just sort of keep things going, keep things playing as they are.
So more of the same, more bombing of civilians, killing of civilians, and occupying Ukrainian land centimetre by centimetre. Even if there is some kind of peace deal reached, do you think this experience is going to stop Putin from trying to recreate the Soviet empire?
No, although he probably wouldn't put it in those terms. So what Putin has made very clear is that his interpretation, his cherry picking of history, and his idea that Russia is, destined to be a great power and to play a great role in the world, these things indicate that his goal of ensuring that Russia has a significant area of influence, sphere of influence in Eastern and Central Europe, those goals have not changed at all. And so, certainly, even if there is a ceasefire or a peace deal in Ukraine, I suspect it's only going to be a temporary pause, because what Putin really wants is a reorganizing of the security architecture in Europe. He really wants to roll back NATO's, enlargement back to where it was at the end of the Cold War. He wants to ensure that the countries that have joined since then, which include Poland as well as former Soviet countries, that all of those countries are vulnerable and open to Russia's influence in the future. So I think this is the direction he's moving in, and this is the sort of a table that he's setting for the future.
OK, now very, very quickly, Dr. Mathers, you refer to the security guarantee. How inhibited is Putin by the threat of NATO's Article 5?
Well, I think a lot depends on how NATO behaves. And I think the key is that Trump has indicated a lot of ambivalence about NATO and about whether or not the U.S. would actually honor the commitments of Article 5, which is an attack on one is an attack on all. And that alone, that rhetoric alone from Trump, has really weakened NATO's deterrent ability in relation to Russia. And I think that is very significant. So I think the NATO member states have a lot of work to do to shore up, not only in material terms, but in rhetorical terms, their commitment to each other and to the security guarantees that the NATO demonstrates. Because otherwise, Putin will just be emboldened to nibble away at bits and pieces, feeling that he won't suffer any consequences.
So a precarious position for NATO and definitely past Soviet or ex-Soviet countries. Dr. Mathers, thank you very much indeed for sharing your analysis with our audience. Have a good day.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.